Okay, now let's really get this layout rolling here. We're going to get some graphics imported here. We're going to start building this layout here. So I think probably the first thing we should do is save our document here. We haven't saved this guy yet, so just a file save or Command S or Control S is fine. And I'm going to save this layout inside the project files folder, which I have sitting on my desktop anyway. If you named your layout Snazzy Flash Layout, it's going to come up now as snazzyflashlayout.ai. That's fine. Or, maybe I'll just simplify this to Flash Layout. Keep it a little more serious, right? This is serious business here. So flashlayout.ai. That's just great. Save it into your project files folder. Version 5 there, of course. Just take the defaults. Okay, great. That should do the duty. Okay. Now, let's go and grab some of our raster graphics, some of our pixel-based graphics, as Flash calls them, by the way, bitmap graphics, which is another term. Just thought of that now. But anyway, file, place, and inside the project files folder, we have 3 of these guys. We have logo, we have photo, and we have wood. They're all JPEGs. Unfortunately, we can't import them all in one shot. You've got to import them one at a time, which is a bit of a drag, but anyway, speaking of drag, I'm just going to drag these guys off the artboard just over to the right there, just so I have them handy, and we'll get them thrown into the layout here as we go. By the way, I'm panning around. I don't know how well you know Illustrator. I'm using a lot of keyboard shortcuts here. Just your spacebar and click and drag. That's all there is to it. Kind of cool. All right, let's go here. File, place again, and I'm going to grab photo.jpg, drop that guy in. And our last guy, which I believe is wood.jpg. There he is. Notice, by the way, when I grab these guys, there's a link there, a link checkbox there, which means that these guys aren't embedded into my Illustrator file. They're linked back to the original file. So I could open up these raster graphics or these bitmap graphics. I could open them up in Photoshop, edit them there, and then have them update here in Illustrator, which is kind of cool. And it'll also keep your file sizes much more manageable, your Illustrator file sizes anyway. So kind of cool. A couple of things to keep in mind there anyway. But do keep in mind that if you delete these files or you move them or what have you, then that link is going to be broken, right? So these are all the things you have to think about as you're building your layouts here. Now, what I want to do here is I want the wood to be lined up against the bottom edge of my artboard, right? And what I could do is I suppose I could, try and eyeball it, something like that. But, I'm no good at eyeballing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my imported wood here. And by the way, I'm on the black arrow tool, the selection tool there. Go ahead and grab him. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my align palette here in Illustrator. You may have to, once again, head to your window menu and look for align. And then in the bottom right corner of the align palette, we have align to, and we can choose align to selection, which is great when you're aligning objects relative to one another. But here we want to make sure that align to artboard is turned on. And I'm just going to say, all right, line it up to the bottom edge, the vertical bottom edge, boom, done. And I will say the horizontal left edge of the artboard as well. So it's perfectly lined up on my artboard, inside my layout, which is great. So that's all there is to it. Boom, it's kind of done, right? It's pretty cool. Okay, what else? Well, let's do, I'm going to throw in a quick rectangle here. So do you want to do more keyboard shortcuts in Illustrator? I love keyboard shortcuts. The trick with keyboard shortcuts is remembering them. But here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the M key on my keyboard, just M all by itself, and that switches me over to the rectangle tool inside the toolbox. Hit the D key on your keyboard as well, not Command D or Shift D or anything, just D all by itself, just M all by itself. And what D will do is it'll switch your fill color and your stroke color back to the defaults, a fill of white and a stroke of black. That's it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag out a rectangle, something like this. I don't even really care where it's placed on the artboard. I don't care what size it is. We're going to size it properly here in about 2 seconds. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the V key on my keyboard. That switches me back to the black arrow tool inside the toolbox. Notice when you hover over top of these tools inside the toolbox, it'll say rectangle tool, and then there's a single character in brackets there. T for type tool, V for the selection tool. Those are all single keyboard strokes on your computer there. So I don't know them all, but I know a lot of them. I know the ones that I use all the time, right? So anyway, neat, speedy ways to work faster in Illustrator. Same idea in Photoshop too, by the way. Okay, so this rectangle that we just created, we want to size them up. We want to set a color for them as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my my good old transform panel here. You can, again, use yours if you want, or you can drag them out by eyeballing them. I want this rectangle to fit the width of the artboard, and I want to set its height as well. You can, of course, always eyeball this stuff, or you can use values, which I'm about to do. So the width is going to be 960, so that's going to be the entire width of my layout, something like this. And then the height that I'm going to use on this fella is going to be 280 pixels, just like that. There we go. So I just pop in my values, and that's kind of it, which is cool. So the next thing that I'm going to do, so that was the transform panel. Again, available from the window menu. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not, but all these panels that I'm using are all underneath the window menu. I'm going to flip over to align now, and all I want to do is I'm still on align to artboard, which is great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up the rectangle here. He's still selected to the left horizontal edge of the artboard, just like that. Okay, great stuff. Go ahead and collapse that guy down. Let's see. I'm going to go and fill this guy with a solid color. So I'm going to flip over to the right-hand side into my swatches. Remember, we created those 3 blue color swatches. So I'm going to fill this guy with the dark blue color swatch. That's the first color that you and I had created. So there we go. And you can go ahead and collapse that back down if you wish. Let's get rid of the stroke color. We don't want a black outline on this rectangle. I'm going to use, again, keyboard shortcuts. You don't have to do it this way, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the X key on my keyboard, and what that does, just X all by itself, notice the color area at the bottom of the toolbox. What X does is it flips between the fill color and the outline color or the stroke color. So make sure stroke is on top there, and then hit your / key, not the / key, the / key. That's also your question mark key on your keyboard. And that will remove whatever color is in there. So we no longer have a stroke on this object, which is great. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do is I want to move this rectangle behind the wood. So I'm going to grab the blue rectangle here. And let's see here. I'm going to go Object and then down to Arrange. Again, I use keyboard shortcuts for a lot of this stuff. There's all my keyboard shortcuts there, but I thought maybe I'd spare you. So Object, Arrange, and then Send to Back. So now he's behind the wood. So the wood's on top of the blue rectangle now. Okay, great. Good stuff. Now you might want to nudge this blue rectangle up just a little bit. See how mine is overlapping? The wood is overlapping the rectangle quite a bit. I'm still on that black arrow tool inside my toolbox, so I can actually use my up arrow key just to nudge that up just a little bit, something like that. So there's still an overlap there. If I zoom in on this, there's still an overlap there, which is fine with me, but I've sort of minimized that overlap. So I'm using a lot of keyboard shortcuts here. I used Command Spacebar to zoom in there, Control Spacebar on the PC, Command or Control 0 to zoom out, or Command or Control plus and minus to zoom out as well. And by the way, this brings me to a point. I've been waiting to make this point here with you, talking about zooming. I usually leave my zoom, unless, I'm doing detailed work and things like this, but if I want to get an overall view of how my layout looks, I make sure that my zoom is set to 100%. Notice here down in the bottom left corner of the document window. 100% is the size and the zoom level that the visitor is going to see our Flash interface at. So I don't know if you know this or not, but you can zoom in inside a web browser. That's fine, but generally speaking, the default zoom, I guess you could say, is going to be 100%. So this is what they're going to see, right? So keep that in mind as you're working along. As for our remaining graphics here, I suppose we can start moving them into place. I don't know exactly where I want these guys just yet, but I think I want the logo somewhere about there. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but somewhere about there. And then this photograph, again, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe somewhere about there. And then maybe what we'll do in due time is we will get these guys properly set. So once all that's done, make sure to save your document, Command S or Control S, and we're looking good. We've got sort of the rough main elements kind of dropped onto our layout. Of course, there's still a menu we have to build. We've got to throw in some text, some other stuff. So we'll keep moving here.